The night began with the icy pleasure of realization. The dress worked. Not the way clothes simply cover the body, but like a perfectly calibrated instrument. As Klara stood before the mirror in her Chicago apartment, the bright red mini dress didn't just hug her figure. It was a statement. It was a departure from the routine, a small but important escape from the predictable role of Alex's wife. And it gave her a feeling of sharp, almost dangerous confidence. We were heading to the river, a moody but trendy bar in the Wicker Park area, where their company often gathered. It was one of those places where the background music was always a little too loud and the lighting too dim to hide the fatigue of the week's end. Alex, my husband, was a typical introvert programmer, reliable, attentive, but often lost in his own thoughts. I loved him for it, for his predictability. Tonight, I felt like I needed a little unpredictability. As soon as we crossed the threshold, Alex, as if on cue, spotted his friend standing by a table deep in the hall. He was instantly distracted, his face lighting up in his natural element, male camaraderie. "I'll be right back," he tossed out, not even waiting for a reply, and disappeared into the crowd, leaving me at the entrance like a forgotten umbrella. Feeling strangely unsettled, I headed to the bar to order a martini. It was there, between the clatter of the shaker and the flashes of street art on the wall, that I first felt him. Rice. He was standing only a few feet away chatting with one of Alex's friends, but his attention was entirely focused on me. It wasn't just a glance. It was a deliberate study, slowly tracing from my ankles to my neckline. He paused, looked me directly in the eyes, and then, worst of all, he smiled. The smile wasn't friendly, but one that acknowledged something that shouldn't have been. It was a look that made my pulse quicken and at the same time stirred a deep, almost primal irritation. He was my husband's best friend, a man I had known for years. Their relationship was so close that Rice was almost part of the furniture in our house. And now this familiar man was looking at me as if we'd just met on a dark street. I took my drink. Perfectly cold, but it couldn't cool the heat rising up my neck. I tried to act naturally, took a sip, turned toward the room as if searching for Alex, but felt that it was only weak acting. I felt his gaze on my back, like a laser burning a hole in the fabric. The tension in the space became so thick that it seemed to displace the oxygen. It was like an invisible magnet pulling us together, and I hated the fact that I couldn't just walk away. I should have left, but some inexplicable force kept me rooted to the spot. Rice finished his conversation. I watched him nod easily, and then he began to move slowly through the crowd, his gaze never leaving mine. My stomach tightened, anticipating disaster. Whatever he was about to say, it wouldn't be simple, friendly, small talk. He stopped next to me, too close, and leaned in. "Clarissa," he whispered, using my full name, which I rarely heard. "You look dangerous tonight." Does Alex know what his wife is wearing? His question hung in the air like a sharp, unwanted scent. It wasn't a compliment, but a challenge disguised as concern. I felt my face burn with a mixture of anger and confusion. "My outfit is my choice, Rice," I snapped, trying to keep my voice steady. And Alex's security, I'm sure, extends to trusting me, not controlling my closet. He didn't react to the cold tone, only intensified the tension with his closeness. He smelled of woody essence and whiskey. There was no way he didn't realize how little space was between us. I was his best friend's wife, but he stood as if we were on a date. I nervously backed away half a step, but Rice, almost imperceptibly, filled the gap. "Of course," he murmured, his eyes dropping again, assessing the red fabric. "It's just, you know how Alex is predictable, and you tonight are so unpredictable. It's enticing." That word enticing made me tense up. It was the end of the fake friendship, a direct acknowledgement of his intentions. I tried again to steer the conversation toward a neutral topic. How was the Seattle project? Alex said you were working on it. Forget Seattle, Klara, he said, sharply dismissing my attempt. Then he did something that crossed every line. His palm, as if accidentally, slowly slid across my elbow and then stopped, lightly but possessively squeezing the area just above my wrist. It was an electric shock. My body instinctively flinched, but I didn't pull away. I was paralyzed by the touch and what it meant. My mind screamed to push him away, but I felt a strange, hot draw to this forbidden intimacy. It was dirty and wrong, but at the same time, it was a sensation I hadn't felt, maybe ever. Rice, seeing my confusion, leaned in even closer. His lips were near my ear, and I felt his warm breath. "You like this," he whispered, and it wasn't a question, but a statement of fact. "You came here to feel this. You want a spark. Why don't we leave and get some real excitement? No one will know." That word, "no one will know," sounded like a proposition of freedom. But behind it was a price I couldn't pay. Betrayal of my husband, the destruction of my world. In the last moment, the instinct for self-preservation took over. I sharply pulled my hand free, my movement so quick that it surprised him. "I am not that person," I almost gasped. "I'm married. You are Alex's friend. Step away." I finally turned away. My steps were quick, but I didn't run. I walked straight to the table where Alex was sitting, seeking safety in his predictable presence. When I sat down next to him, I felt as if I had just escaped a fire. Alex, oblivious to my inner chaos, greeted me with a carefree, "Well, you're back." I forced myself to smile, but the smile was shaky, like candlelight in a draft. My heart was still pounding, and I could feel the hot patch of confusion spreading across my body. I placed my phone on the table, trying to focus on the conversation, but I heard the familiar buzz. It was a message from Rice. I quickly flipped the phone face down, but it was too late. I had read the first two words on the log screen. "I'm still." Rice's message, "I'm still waiting for that excitement. You know you can't pretend nothing happened," burned a hole in my consciousness. I knew he expected me to read it. The text was a lifeline he had thrown to show me that our conversation wasn't over, only moved to a different, more hidden dimension. I hit the phone, and with it, my guilt. I was aware of exactly what I was doing right now. I was sitting next to my husband, laughing at his jokes, nodding at his friends, creating the illusion of a perfect evening, while everything inside me was falling apart. Every gesture was fake, and every laugh was a meticulously practiced performance. Alex, my attentive Alex, noticed it first. "You seem restless, honey. Is everything okay?" He put his hand on my knee, and his touch, always so comforting, now felt burdensome. His simplicity was a rebuke to my newfound complexity. His trust was so unwavering that he couldn't imagine the scale of this secret. He simply couldn't conceive that his best friend would, "Yes, just a bit of a headache, long week," I replied, and my voice sounded foreign even to me. It was a pathetic lie, but Alex accepted it, though his eyebrows remained slightly furrowed. He knew I was hiding something, but his trust was so unwavering that he couldn't imagine the scale of this secret. He simply couldn't conceive that his best friend would. I looked toward Rice again. He was standing in the same spot where we had talked, but now he was laughing, vividly discussing something with another friend. He looked completely relaxed, perfectly composed, a master of deception. But as soon as our eyes met, his smile slowed, turning into a barely noticeable private smirk that said, "I see you, and I know what you feel." It was a challenge. I began to feel that I was playing not against Rice, but against the part of myself that was intrigued by his audacity. I was so consumed by this invisible tangle at a distance that I couldn't focus on the conversations at our table. I felt like a puppet whose strings were held by the man at the other end of the room. Eventually, the tension became unbearable. The bar became too small, the air too heavy. I needed an escape, if only for a moment. "I'm going outside to get some air," I told Alex, standing up. "I need to cool down a bit." "Okay, come back soon," Alex replied, not looking at me, engrossed in his friend's story about a new startup. When I stepped into the alley behind the bar, the cold November air of Chicago hit my face, but it couldn't dispel the inner heat. I stood taking deep breaths, trying to collect my thoughts again. I should have replied to Rice, told him to stop, and end this, but something held me back. For a minute, I even wondered if I should text him to clarify the situation. But before I could unlock the phone, I heard footsteps. I turned around. It was him. Rice emerged from the shadows, his figure clearly outlined by the light of the street lamp overhead. He seemed to enjoy my shock, my inability to escape. "Did you really think you could just run away?" he said, his voice low and calm, completely different from the bar noise. "We're not finished, Klara." "We were finished the moment you decided to cross the line," I retorted, feeling my resolve return. I was scared, but also angry, and anger was better than that confusing desire. "I told you, I am not that person, and stop stalking me." He slowly, deliberately stepped closer, and I felt myself freeze again. He wasn't aggressive, his movements were soft, but his every action was calculated to immobilize me. "You're scared," he whispered. "Not of me. You're scared of what you felt. That you deserve more than life on Alex's schedule. You want to feel something alive, Klara, just once." He was dangerously accurate, and that shook me more than his proposition. He saw in me what I tried to hide even from myself. Boredom, unrealized desire, a crack in my perfect world. Just as he leaned in even closer, his hand rising to seemingly touch my face, Alex's voice rang out. "Hey, what's going on here?" Alex came out of the bar, his face showing moderate surprise, not suspicion. He saw only two people talking. But his appearance instantly broke the spell. Rice stepped back, his posture changing in a fraction of a second. His face turned into a mask of carefree, reliable friendship. He was an actor receiving an Oscar. "Oh, nothing, buddy. Just checking to see if she was cold." Rice slapped Alex on the shoulder, and his smile was completely sincere. "Klara said she had a headache, so I decided to come out and see if she needed my jacket." Alex turned to me, his concern genuine. "Are you all right, honey?" He walked up and hugged me. I stood in my husband's embrace, but I felt as if he was hugging a ghost. His sincerity cut me to the core. How could I have let this go so far? How could I have let Rice make me doubt? Even for a second. I said, "Yes, I'm great. Thank you, Rice. I appreciate your concern." My tone was cold, but Alex didn't seem to notice the undercurrent of sarcasm. "See there," Alex said to Rice, patting his back again. "Thanks for looking out for her, brother." Rice nodded. He looked into my eyes, and in that gaze was an instantaneous, lightning-fast shadow, a triumphant smirk. He lost the battle, but he won the war, because his secret was now mine too. He walked back into the bar, easy and casual. Alex and I followed. On the way home, I held his hand, but I felt not warmth but a heavy, icy burden. This wasn't just unpleasant flirting, it was a fundamental shift in my life. I had just consciously chosen to bury the truth to protect a peace that was an illusion. Now, I didn't just return home to my husband, I brought with me a ticking time bomb, pulsating at the very center of my marriage. I was safe, but I was unclean because my desire had betrayed Alex, even if my body hadn't. I knew that the next time I looked at Rice, he wouldn't just be my husband's friend. He would be the guardian of my secret. And I had no idea how long I could live with him and this knowledge in the same room.